Hi, thanks for checking out this video. I'm going to do a little walkthrough for how I came up with the tones for the track leading in. This is a video I made actually a little while ago. It was for a review of my Boden Strandberg 7-string guitar, and I decided that this plugin looked super cool. It's set up kind of similar to the Pliny plugin, or the Archetype Pliny one. That's the one that I got first from Neural DSP, so I kind of compare everything to that. So the layout of all the Neural plugins makes a lot of sense. It's really easy to use, and it's super intuitive. So basically you got your signal flow up top, and then your global settings that never really go away. The basic signal flow is you've got in the Tosin one, you've got a compressor and an overdrive. These are both his own brand Abasi pedals. Then you got your heads. So you got 3 heads. You got a clean head, a mid gain, but it can do high gain, and then a dedicated kind of high gain head. And these two have some overlap between the two of them. I'm gonna call this one the yellow one, and this one the gold one. Sure. I like the yellow one a lot for leads. This was super easy, and this one I ended up using for the low gain part in the beginning, and that was super easy too. After the head, you've got a graphic EQ. So I grabbed a stock factory setting and kind of just started tweaking from there, and I left the EQ moves that they have. Sometimes I don't even bother with the graphic EQ because I'm going to end up EQing it in the DAW. But if you're, let's say, using this in standalone, this is awesome. You can really kind of tweak your tone without needing to use some sort of an extra EQ, especially if you're standalone, you won't have one, which is awesome. Then you got the speaker sim or cabinet sim part, and this is really intuitive and really cool, and there's so much flexibility here. You've got the ability to load some custom impulse responses. I just use the factory ones. I think they're cool. So for this particular tone, I'm using basically like a Royer ribbon mic, and then good old-fashioned Shure SM57. And then lastly, you got time-based effects. I ended up not using any of these for this track. I'm just doing sends for it, which is pretty cool. Now, one of the cool things that I just discovered is that if because they're kind of grayed out right now, that means even if they're turned on, engaged right here, they don't work. So the cool thing about this is if you're on like your pedals over here and you just want to flip this on and off, you can just right click it and then turn those effects on and off. Another thing I like about all of the way that this is laid out is once you go from like the head to your cab, you're not just seeing the cab, you see the head, and the head has its settings, but they're manipulatable. You can change them if you want, which is cool. Again, it's just a little bit quicker workflow. If you're messing around with your mic placement and you decide, man, I just want more treble on the head, you don't have to go click on it, right there, and you're good to go. The next sort of settings never change. They're always right here. These are kind of the global settings, and you've got your input level, built-in gate, a mode to change between mono and stereo sources, oversampling. I had it on high for this, but it's kind of taxing my CPU too much for this project, so I turned them all down to normal just to help make this recording part go easier. Your factory and user settings. Actually, I haven't saved any user ones yet. That's funny. Super quick and easy to use. You basically just hit the floppy disk thing, and then you could, just my lead, and then it shows up in the user. So really quick and easy. It's awesome. And an output knob, which I like that this is right here. So if you're using it in standalone, practicing along with a track, you can turn it down or up. You can get your level just right. They've added a Midi Mapping section, which I haven't messed around with yet. I'm really excited about this because I'm planning on using these plugins potentially live, and being able to Midi map. That means you could change between presets pretty quick. So can't wait to explore that. And then they've included a tuner finally, which is awesome. This is super obvious. I love where they put it. It's subtle at the bottom, and it's really responsive. It works great. That was my only complaint about the Archetype Pliny one that I had. It doesn't have the tuner built in. There might actually be an update now where they all have the tuner built in. So that's the basic layout of this plugin. So what I'm going to do is I'll go through each one of my tones just briefly, kind of show what I was doing to get the different tones. Starting firstly with the clean one. All right, so for this sound, I'm using light compression from the Abasi compression pedal. No overdrive. Obviously, it's a clean sound. I'm using the clean head, and I used his preset Crystal Clean. Cab is pretty simple, straight ahead. I didn't really do anything here at all, actually. I thought it just sounded good and kept moving. For the time-based effects, I'm not using the reverb, but I am using the delay that's built in. This is pretty cool. You got the ability to turn a modulation section on those delay repeats on and off, a ping pong to have it go left and right, and then obviously a sync so it matches up with the tempo in your DAW. So this track is at 135. For my processing beyond that, in the very beginning, I just had a little automation for a filter sweep. All right, so let's take a look at the rhythm tone. For this one, I'm using that kind of gold head or the middle head. Got a little bit of overdrive in front of it. Gain set pretty reasonable. Bass rolled back, treble boosted, presence a whole lot. I was using another preset here that just sounded really tight. It seemed to work great. So I'm using the stereo input source. This is a cool little trick that you can do to save some CPU for your computer. When I recorded the rhythm guitar, obviously you end up with 2 mono audio files. Panned them hard left and right, and then bounced it back down and imported it back into the DAW, and then you end up with just one stereo file. So I only need to use one version of the plugin instead of 2. So that's a cool little trick. You just tell it stereo, and it automatically treats that stereo source correctly. A little bit of the graphic EQ section. This was just in the factory setting, and thought it was a good starting point, so I just left it alone. And with the cab sim, using the Sennheiser 421 and then a condenser mic. I'm trying to think, I think it might be an AKG 414 condenser mic. And what I'll do is I'll hit play and I'll go back and forth between the two of them so you can hear kind of what they're doing each individually on their own. So nothing too crazy there. I think, makes sense. This way you can blend the two different sounds together and get a more, kind of complex sound from the guitar, which is what you do when you reamp anyway. You're going to use multiple mics. For my EQ moves here, we're on the Eosis EQ, which I really love. Basic filtering. This is going to control some of that low end, make sure it doesn't get out of control. Cut some of that fizz. Now, sometimes when you start dialing back the top end, then you start losing some of the details. So I like to sort of use the air EQ to then get a little bit of just top end at the very, end up here back, but then still getting rid of the junk way high that you don't need. And what I'll do is I'll just kind of hit play again. I'll turn this on and off and turn these EQs on and off so you can see what the different cuts we're doing. This one I think is really critical. I think this one was a great spot to just remove some of that fizz, some unwanted stuff, and then you can push it up a little bit hotter in the mix, and it's not gonna get in the way and cloud things up. So I think this one was a great cut. These other two are a lot more subtle. Now let's check out that lead, just kind of low gain in the beginning. So I'm really happy with how this one turned out. This sounds just as good as the Archetype Pliny one, low gain wise. This sounds great. It started with the regular, just kind of tight crunch preset and just kind of tweaked from there to get it to sound right. Using a decent amount of compression on the compression pedal. Gain is set really low, tight, kind of pulled back a little bit, almost no bass whatsoever. Treble's pushed, presence is cranked, master and level are just kind of left alone. This is cool because it gives you the ability to boost down below and boost up high. I guess this low boost probably doesn't make any sense with me rolling the bass all the way back, but whatever. It was there factory, so. Little bit of EQ happening again here. This is just the factory EQ that was there, and then I kind of went from there. I'll do the same thing, just starting with the factory setting. It sounded great, and I was working fast, so here we go. Now, I wasn't using any of the time-based effects in the plugin. I was doing a send for both of those. So I'm sending off to my Slate Digital Verb Suites Classic plate, just FG480. Repeater, which is an awesome delay plugin that's in the Slate Digital package as well. So that's where those are coming from. I think it sounded great. It mixed really quick and easy, and let's just take a look real fast at the Eosis. So nothing really crazy going on here, just chopping off the top and bottom. So I'll hit play again, and I'll just engage it and, turn it on and off. All right, and lastly, the main lead. So for the main lead, I'm using the yellow head finally. Started off with a factory preset again, and then just kind of made some tweaks from there. No compression, typical Tube Screamer move where the volume's boosted and then the gain is cut. This is cool because it's got your a little bit more of a tone control section than normal Tube Screamer overdrive just has a tone thing. This one you can really control which frequencies you're either boosting or cutting. So a whole lot of treble, a little bit of mids, and then trying to get rid of a little bit of low end. On the head, the bass is cranked, mids are cranked, treble is cranked. The master's rolled back, levels pushed up a little bit, and then doesn't have the low boost on, but does have the top shelf. Light EQ, again, it just sounded like a good starting point, so just started here and went from there. This one's cool because it's got the Royer mic on it, on the one channel, or on the one speaker, and then the other one is a Dynamic 57. So I'll do the same thing, hit play, turn it on and off. You can hear what each one is doing on their own. And for the time-based effects, I'm not using anything in the plugin. I'm just sending off to those same two sends that I have, to the Verb Suites Classics for the plate, and then to Repeater for the delay. In the EQ section, I did a little bit more here than I did on the low gain. Obviously normal, filtering going on the top and bottom end, and then just had two cuts that seemed like it made sense. I was having a little bit of a low buildup on some of the licks, and I felt like this really helped kind of control them. Could have used a dynamic EQ or a couple other different things to try to solve it, but this seemed to work well. So I'll hit play, I'll turn the whole EQ on and off, and then I'll go between the filtering. All right, so that's a look at the Tosin Abasi plugin by Neural DSP. I'm really happy with this one. I think this one's a close second for me now. It's real close second. That clean head is so pristine and so clean. It's really cool. I really like this one. So those are just my thoughts on it. Hopefully you guys got a little something away from, how I was dialing the different tones, starting with kind of factory and then doing your typical kind of mixing moves from there. Thanks for watching this video. If you like this little track, it's a little taste of what my band does with our original music. So we're kind of like Plenty Meets Between the Buried and Me is probably a decent way of describing us. So, check out our channel, check out our other original music, hit like and subscribe, do all that YouTube stuff. Helps the channel continue to grow. So thanks for watching. Take it easy.